You would be hard-pressed to find a more humble, kind, generous soul than Dr. Mel Brown. He is as warm and giving as you can find in a person, and it is my honor and delight to be able to introduce you. He was very gracious in helping my son with his application to the Naval Academy. As a doctor, he was helpful because my son had a medical issue that his expertise certainly helped in that regard. He himself, as a graduate of the Naval Academy, is also a naval officer, retired, but served our country honorably and well for 10 years, 20. And then medical school in emergency medicine, and you continue to serve the community in that regard, as well as serve on the board of MUSC. He was, if you know our St. John Cemetery project, Dr. Brown was in some of our early meetings with that, and again, it is my delight and my pleasure and my honor to introduce Dr. Mel Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. That day Frank asked me to do this, I didn't see him quick enough to go to the other side of the street. And Frank is always going to task you with something. He's that person from the church, you know. I think we called them church ladies back in the day. We got to worry about Frank. Medicine and primary care. But without further ado, I put together a nice little talk here, and I just want to give you a little insight to me and how I came to be in front of you. Okay? So, just so happens last weekend at St. Patrick's, my Aunt Irma, my auntie, had a memorial service at St. Patrick's on St. Philip Street. Now, have you ever been to St. Patrick's? Our music director actually has a Grammy Award for jazz music, okay? So our music is very colorful. It's a colorful tapestry music there. Anyway, the recessional hymn was a hymn called God Will Take Care of You. And when I was singing this, I thought to myself, this would be a perfect opening for the speech I proposed for today. Just to give you a little backstory to the hymn, it's a Methodist hymn, all right? Composed by Reverend Walter Martin and his wife Sevilla in the early 20th century. And so as the story goes, Reverend Martin, he was working at a Bible college in the state of New York, and he had to go proselytize, and he had to do about a 2 or 3 day journey from where they lived. His wife had fallen ill. Now back in those days, we got sick. We didn't mess around with that. We didn't say, hey, call him a Z-Pack. It's like, uh-oh, this person's sick. So he thought about canceling this trip. But his son challenged him. He said, Daddy, don't you think if God wants you to preach, he'll take care of Mother while you're away? So as the story goes, he made the journey, and on his return a week later, his wife was actually recovered and feeling well. But this was an inspiration to him to write this hymn, and I'm going to share some of the words. And it says, be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. Though through every day, over all the way, he will take care of you. God will take care of you. So that is what I added to my speech. My speech actually starts here. My father-in-law, who I revere, he's from a small town, outside of a small town called Coosawhatchee, South Carolina. We called him a twice-a-year Christian. We know this term? Now, his wife, my mother-in-law, he's an African-American man from Beaufort County, or Jasper County. My mother-in-law is a Japanese woman. She was born in Okinawa, and she had a spiritual upbringing, but I would best describe it as Shinto. So, he was a career Air Force enlisted man, and he spent most of his career in the Orient. But when it came time for his daughters, one of which would be my wife, to be raised in the States, he moved back here and he was stationed in Charleston. His mother wasn't doing well, so he moved his mother into the house as well. And the mother said, well, first thing's going is these Shinto shrines. Then we're going to start going to church. So my wife, who barely spoke English and didn't know much about the church, her introduction was hellfire and brimstone preachers preach for 3 or 4 hours on Easter and Christmas. So in one fell swoop, she moves to the United States. Her mom's shrines are put away, and she has to go to these churches where she's not sure what's going on. Needless to say, my wife did not get a great introduction into Christendom. Okay? She She was a preteen, and she was just trying to figure out, what is this all about? When we got together and decided to get married, we had a non-denominational wedding over at Cathedral St. Timothy's on Ashley Avenue. And then I was stationed in Norfolk, we began our life together in Norfolk. I was a ship's doctor on an amphibious ship called the USS Carter Hall. So we went through the challenges as a new couple. Home purchase, kids, schools, division of labor, 2 working people. And we had this added challenge of times when I would have to go out to sea. In between times, we would get to go to church. Now, for convenience, if things are going slow, we just go to this Episcopal church down the street. But when we were feeling good and happy, we would get in the car and drive to Hampton, Virginia, and go to a Catholic church that reminded me of St. Patrick's. She would say that she would sit there and watch, and she would mostly sit back and observe and listen to the homily. That's about the only part she quite understood, because the other stuff, she said, was just kind of this pomp and circumstance when she would describe a liturgy. Now, I did mention this, my wife also brought a child to marriage. She brought a child to marriage. His name is Gabriel. And Gabriel struggles with attention deficit, language processing issues. We actually found out later in his life that he's on the spectrum for autism, okay? But one thing my wife really loved is this kid was always busy, restless all the time. But when we got into church and started singing hymns, that kid was locked in and enjoying it. So it kind of caught her attention. She loved seeing him in that position. She looked at me one day and she said, I've been watching Gabriel and I've been watching you, Melvin. I'm always amazed about how you take things in stride. I think it must be because you grew up in that church setting. Now, I gotta admit, never thought of it in that frame of reference. But I think she might have been onto something. This is where I'm going with this today. Now, first of all, Yvonne, who was a great friend of my mother, all honor must be paid to my parents because they raised me in a way to be self-reliant, but they did raise me in a church-centered community, okay? Like I said, it's Yvonne, Joe, I've grown up with these people in my entire life because of the church, right? My community was between Sacred Heart and St. Patrick's. And between those 2 churches, I logged in about 12 years. Censors, cross, lighting candles. My favorite as a young guy was putting the candles out. I don't know why I love that so much. And of course, I love the smell of the incense. But anyway, I logged in about 12 years as an altar boy. And that was back when you went to church every Sunday. All right? Anyone do that now? Yes, right.
Yeah.
Went to church every Sunday. And you served every Sunday. There was no schedule, And the only thing about the schedule is where you were that day as an altar boy, all right? Altar server. And that was also those days where it was actually a good deal to be an altar boy because you would get funerals and weddings and get a license from scratch. Oh well. But anyway, that was kind of my upbringing. And, I also went to Porter Gap School, by the way, and it's basically kind of school, but back then we would go to chapel every week. And we had to take religion classes. It was always at the center of my life. Now, when I would leave my parents' home for higher education, that's when I went to Annapolis. I became a midshipman at the U.S. Naval Academy, and I sang in the Glee Club at the Naval Academy. Now, the Glee Club director was Catholic, which means all Catholics in the Glee Club were also in the Catholic choir. There was only 1 day as a plebe at the Naval Academy when you could sleep in. That was Sunday, but I couldn't. Dr. Talley, Dr. Talley, the choir director, said all Catholics will be in the Catholic choir. And, this is school where you didn't talk back. So, yeah, so that's where I was. And I actually enjoyed it. I love the music. Parents are an overarching influence in my life, but the church and its teachings were always there. Just to go back to that verse, be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. It's this ability to face challenges without panic. This is what my wife saw in me. And she attributed this to the church. We're not in control, right? God is in control. And I expend my strength on things I can change and not the things I cannot control. Before medicine, I actually had a 2-part naval career. Six years I was an engineer on the warships, and 14 years I was a doctor in the Navy. So, as an engineer on a weapon of war called the destroyer, okay? In a wartime footing, my job as an engineer was to ensure the plant was aligned to make sure we had power to the weapons and we could get away if we needed to, all right? This is what my contribution was. And, we didn't take these decisions lightly to do things. I'll come back to that in a second. After that part of the career, I returned to the Navy after I went to medical school. And the military paid for my education to make me an agent of maintaining a resilient and fighting force. sailors and Marines that are under my care. Now, it might surprise you to know that both the warfare officer in me and the medical officer in me, I was deeply influenced by my faith in God. Now, through it all, my belief in the sanctity and value of human life shaped my decisions as both a shooter and a caregiver, right? In moments of uncertainty and difficult decision-making, faith was a moral compass. On the ship, on the destroyer, I would guess that outside of our drills, we probably went to battle stations, meaning all the weapons were ready to go, probably 100 times over a 3-year tour. We fired our weapons maybe 3 times in that time. 2 were warning shots, 1 was out of defense. It was always a long decision about whether we were going to use the weapon systems. We weren't gung-ho people. My commanding officer, last name is Donahue, what do you think his denomination was? Okay. We would have long talks about ethics and making the decisions of warfare, because we didn't want to be responsible for the unnecessary loss of human life. We would look at the rules of engagement through our faith. It was very interesting talks there. People would be surprised to know that this is happening on a warship. Okay? As an emergency room doctor, I was regularly faced with decisions, either to proceed or withhold certain life-saving interventions based on a multitude of variables. That moral compass would guide me to consider not just the physical well-being of the patient, but also the emotional and spiritual needs. I would always strive to make holistic healing a priority, and I would seek the best outcomes that would be in alignment with the patient's values and belief systems. Now, my faith encourages me to view medicine more as a vocation and not a profession, right? I see my role as a doctor as a calling to be of service to others. Alleviate suffering, that's what I do. I promote healing. I attack my work with humility, gratitude, and a sense of purpose. My wife saw that in times of personal and professional challenges, my faith provided me with strength, solace, and resilience. So I hope that in sharing my experiences with you, the Carolina Captain professionals, that I might inspire those of you among us to see the profound impact that faith can have in your professional life. Now, my wife is now a student of this faith, baptized, and she's learning. Okay? Together, as individuals driven by both faith and professions, all of us here, we can make a difference in the lives of the people we encounter. We can contribute to the betterment of society as a whole. Now, they take from another gospel, and they will know that we are Christians by our love. Thank you. Just to clarify, so grew up here, high school, Naval Academy, ship guy, came back home for MUSC, went back to the Navy, became an emergency doctor, which I did not realize was going to mean I was belonging to the Marine Corps, where your son's going. So I ended up getting deployed to Afghanistan a couple times. Retired in 2015. I've been an emergency doctor for about 8 years, but left that about 2 years ago to start doing primary care. So that's where I am today. Thank you for your time, your attention. If there's any questions,
Well, and I just want to say you're the proud father of a newly confirmed daughter.
Yes, that's right. My daughter got confirmed at Cathedral this 2 weeks ago now. Yes, 2 weeks ago. She's 17. She was supposed to have gotten confirmed during COVID, but things got mixed up. And when we were doing a college visit a couple weeks ago, Deacon John called and said, "Hey, can you be at Cathedral in 3 weeks?" I'm like, "Yeah." So the same weekend, she had her debutante ball and she got confirmed. So now I can start looking for dowries.
Let me know if you find one.
Trying to get a lot of goats.
Well, I'll start with one question here.
Okay.
You referred to it a little bit at your experience at the Naval Academy, but my son in his plebe year, he said that the only place that he felt like he had peace was in the chapel.
That was very true. I inadvertently found that out. Do you one better? I was talking to you guys about my roommates at the academy. Both my roommates happen to be Catholic, but hadn't gone to church since graduating college, hadn't stepped foot into church. One of them is my daughter's godfather, so he started, showing more interest. Anyway, about 4 years ago, sorry, my timeline with COVID is messed up, but about 4 years ago, I think it was, both of them came out to visit, and my wife always said to one of the roommates, she says, "Okay, you're the godfather, you're going to go to mass with Lily, my daughter. So Kevin, the other guy, says, well, let's all go. And at the end of Mass, these are two guys who live in the Bay Area, and they said, you know what? That was really nice, just to sit somewhere and be quiet for an hour. People are paying for these experiences now. You know? Yeah, and it's there. You know, cut your phone off, sit down, smell the incense,
Is there
listen to the choir.
Catholic Student Association or Newman's Club at the academy?
There was when I was there. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's still there. But
There is.
Catholicism is probably one of the bigger denominations in the United States Navy at the Naval Academy.
We have a lot of naval people who come here from the academy, and we've had some of them end up at Christ Our King in our young adult group and stuff, and they come in having lived their faith at the academy, and that's what they're looking for when they get here. So there is a huge Catholic presence,
That's great.
and it seems to be from the ones I'm talking to, it's very good.
So you also have is it the Kairos? Is that what, Kairos?
Kairos.
Kairos, sorry, yes.
Kairos retreats.
That is a big emphasis there.
Yes.
This might put you on the spot a little bit. I
Okay.
don't know, you mentioned singing in the glee club and the choir.
Yes.
Do you have a chorus for us? You might
I was
wanna
gonna
read
lie. I know the song, so I was wondering why you didn't actually sing
I
the
started
song.
to, and then I said, I don't have the music with me, so.
Come on now.
What I can do off the top of my head.
Yeah. What's the first verse?
I love this song so much when they play communion. Let us break bread together on our knees. Let us break bread together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me.
It's good.
There's my favorite communion hymn.
And the other one is Be Thou. What are the first
Yeah,
words of it?
I would need the first bars. Be not dismayed, whatever be done. Oh, that was yes. God will take care of you. I do need the music for that.
Dismayed, whatever betide, God will take care of
I'll listen to you.
you. I was raised Pentecostal holiness, but that was
Okay,
my
yeah,
church.
yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Frank, for the
Thank you.
opportunity.